presented by Brian Kibler. Coming up next, we have Noblord from the USA up against Tansoku from Japan. This is dipping back into Group A, where we saw Viper face off against Noblord to start things off, and now because Noblord lost, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and so far we saw through most of the earlier portion of the day, Asia-Pacific region and China sort of barreling through. We sort of stalled a little later on in the bottom half of the top 8, but now we have to see, can we get an America's player through? Because none have made it so far.
Exactly. Tansoku did lose to Yeying, and now that has set the stage for this aggressive lineup up against a very mixed field that we have from Noblord. He has Odd Warrior, Mid-Range Hunter, Quest Rogue, and APM, OTK, Topsy-Turvy Priest, whatever you want to call it. And it is very weak to what Tansoku is bringing, because Tansoku has this aggressive lineup, and once again, things like this Topsy-Turvy Priest, how can it survive the onslaught of pressure from things like even Paladin and Mid-Range Hunter?
Yeah, Noblord wasn't really thrilled when he saw how his group panned out. In particular, he really kind of expected Viper to bring more controlling decks, thus his very sort of anti-control, combo-oriented lineup. Similarly, both of them said that they felt like they'd mostly seen Tansoku play controlling-style decks. But actually, when we first saw Tansoku at a previous championship, he told us that he liked to play aggressive decks, but all of his practice partners always convinced him to bring control. Well, now he gets to be more in his element playing these aggressive decks, and much to, I imagine, Noblord's chagrin.
Yeah. Well, we'll start things off. I mean, last series we saw that you can't really count out some of these combo anti-control decks, because you never know if they're able to pull themselves out. Yes, it's a very unfavored matchup. This one looks like to be a 70-30 favorite in favor of even Paladin, according to some of the data out there. But, I mean, that's still a chance for Noblord to pull it through.
We just saw Quest come down on turn 6 for Quest Rogue, and then the Quest Rogue got fatigued. So.
Right. Exactly. And, even if it is 70% of the time, it still means that it could be that 30% of the time that Noblord pulls out a victory by stabilizing through Amara, Warden of Hope, which is the reward for the quest, and puts you back to 40 life. And sometimes, even Paladin gets a little bit slow start. Not with a Corpse Taker beginning, but, I mean, Tansoku can draw pretty awkwardly from this point on.
Yeah, right now, it looks like Tansoku has a fairly strong hand with the 2-drop followed up by a potential for Coin Corpse Taker. Noblord's hand is okay. He really wants to have those early game death rattles to get to that Amara, though. So he doesn't have a Dead Ringer, a Loot Hoard, or anything like that. Well, spoke too soon. There's Dead Ringer. So that's really what Noblord wants to be playing in the early turns generally. You can use a Radiant Elemental to try to sort of fight for the board against the early plays from the Paladin, though. And given that it's a bad matchup, trying to hold that for your combo later on may be just too slow. So we might even see Noblord play the Radiant here instead.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't hate that. I think it answers most things that isn't a Mani Berserker. Well, I mean, it kind of answers the 6 Wampus, but you don't want to trade that in. The Dead Ringer here does allow him to draw additional death rattles in the future too. So
I like this though from Noblord here, and this is sort of what Bunny Hopper was just saying in his interview with Raven at the end of his last match, that Hearthstone's most interesting when you get into situations where your deck just isn't necessarily getting to do what it's supposed to. You have to take Plan B. In this matchup, typically, or rather with this deck, typically you want to play toward, I will save my Radiance to have this big combo late game. Against aggressive decks, you can't do that. You don't have the luxury of spending your time sort of building up to that combo, and you need to fight for the board early with the Radiant.
Right. Well, Noblord picks up Seance, gives him the ability to play another Radiant Elemental if he wants to dominate the board. I do think that Noblord wants to keep his Radiant Elemental healthy, so most likely will be aiming for some kind of heal this turn. That doesn't give him much mana that's flexible for the remainder, though. He could use Shadow Visions, he could play a Dead Ringer, or he can just be okay with using Seance.
And here the Seance is used to try to, again, build up toward that Amara. He wants to ensure that he's able to get more Dead Ringers, he's able to progress his quest as quickly as possible, but the amount of time you have against Coin Corpse Taker into second Corpse Taker is fairly limited. Though, that does become weaker in the face of a potential mass hysteria, especially if there's minion backup.
Yeah, precisely. And with that double Death Rattle draw, Dead Ringer will continue to chain it, so that is Death Rattle number 5. which is noblord's only missing a couple pieces left to finish his quest.
I wonder.
And, you know, if you have Amara Warden of Hope, you're not too worried about dipping below, you know, even 10 health at times, because you go automatically set to 40 no matter what. Interesting that he's going for the Blood Mage Thanos over the Dead Ringer. Is he just trying to draw general utility cards as opposed to, say, a specific Death Rattle minion? I think that makes sense given that, you know, even if he draws like a test subject, that's not exactly what he's looking for resource-wise.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. One is that he needs to find more removal. He wants to dig for, you know, say, another Shadow Visions, another Mass Hysteria, find a Psychic Scream. So he's able to deal with the follow-up to Tansoku's initial aggression.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So if you're Tansoku, you were thinking about this other Corpse Taker, but, you know, you're talking about walking into Mass Hysteria. I don't know if there's a clean way to do it otherwise.
Well, you could actually just cast Consecration and attack phase for 6 against this board. It's not unreasonable because, you know, you get to clear off this board and get some damage in. Don't leave yourself vulnerable to the Hysteria. That's not necessarily fast enough clock, so I think that Tansoku's looking for something else.
Okay. Double auto defense matrix. Suppose that does protect his Corpse Taker, at least in his mind.
Right. One big thing too about playing the card draw minions that are not Dead Ringers for Quest Priest is that you want to ensure that you aren't just getting back Dead Ringers from Twilight's Call.
Right.
At a certain point, you just run out of Death Rattle minions, so you want to ensure that you're actually getting good results from your Twilight's Call and getting additional resources from your deck, because you're not just getting a ton of Dead Ringers. You actually saw that in noblord's first match, where he essentially just kept bringing back Dead Ringers, and there wasn't really anything to do with them. He just ran out of any resources.
All right. Well, noblord actually gets a little unfortunate. He could have had a situation where all three of them end up killing each other. But, you know, having a 1-1 stick around isn't the end of the world. It's more about eliminating that Corpse Taker, which he had the guaranteed outcome, I believe.
Shadow Visions, we'll find it. There's Twilight's Call, which, again, progresses pretty well toward the quest, and that is what he chooses.
Right. I think that guarantees he finishes the quest.
Yes. I believe that's 6, and then 7 is in hand with the Loot Hoarder. And, you know, he does get one Dead Ringer and 1 Loot Hoarder here, so he has, I believe, a guaranteed draw of a test subject. Oh, no, there's still a Dead Ringer left in the deck, too.
Yeah. Are you sure?
He copied one with the
Oh,
Seance.
you're right. Well, Tansoku has the ability to spike her steed and really punch pretty hard here. Go for 11. Noblord does have the Psychic Scream.
Yeah, and Psychic Scream here, you know, is certainly I suspect what we're gonna see, because there's no burst possibility for Tansoku to actually clear this up to end this game, and you don't want to necessarily play an Amara into, you know, a board where, oh, you're going to just kill your Amara on board, or potentially like silence it and you know, get you for a ton of damage too. Even if you go to 40, you'd rather have an empty board, or as empty as possible when you get there.
It's time for a little blood. Reporting for duty.
Yeah, Noblord has Twilight's Call into Amara here, so very solid situation. Has definitely stabilized here, and right now on board, Tansoku is not even killing Amara, so he has to have an additional resource. He can... Okay, Blessing of Kings is actually pretty interesting. You can Blessing of Kings and just kill it with the Glass Knight. I'm like, forgetting that minion's name. Or, ooh, okay. He's going to silence a card draw minion.
Oh, interesting.
One of the things that Tansoku wants to be looking at here is, okay, well, now I need to do 40 damage.
Right.
So what is the best way to try to prevent Noblord from being able to effectively deal with my blood? One of the ways to do that is I'm going to contain his card draw,
I mean, what else would you silence? That's not
Really-
another question to think about.
Yeah, there really isn't that much.
I mean, there's things like Ziliax.
Yeah, there is a Ziliax.
So I guess, there's value in doing that, but not that much compared to having, say, a 4/3 minion in play. I guess maybe Tansoku does not want to walk into extra removal because the opponent just drew a bunch of cards, like another Mass Hysteria or a Psychic
Well,
Screen.
that is one of the key things here is that Mass Hysteria on this board does not kill the 8/7. There's no combination there's no permutation of outcomes that actually kills it, whereas if you, instead of hero powering, play the Spellbreaker, Mass Hysteria can be a full clear.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Trying to also take inventory of what noblord needs to finish the game. Looks like he needs another Radiant Elemental and a Vivid Nightmare and a Divine Spirit, so he's 3 pieces off.
He does have a Shadow Visions in hand, though, which is guaranteed one of those.
Yeah, especially with the second Mass Hysteria in hand, I think that does very clearly guarantee it. I like this double card draw starts to continue to dig through. Let me do some inventory of spells. There's a Divine Spirit, there's 2 Power Word Shields, there is Spirit Lash and Vivid Nightmare. So there's 4 spells, so there's 5 spells in the deck right now. Still not as guaranteed as he'd like it to be.
All right, well, Spike Ridge Steed, get you.
Reporting for duty.
That's a beefy night.
It hits for a lot, but now Noblord is down to the starting life total. He's down to 30.
Sure.
So I mean, and this is frankly something that we've seen with even Paladin throughout a lot of these sort of combo matchups, that it has been slotted into these aggressive lineups, but it's not quite as powerful at closing out the games before the combo decks got online. It does sometimes have those strange endgame win conditions like we just saw with Bunny Hopper and his Lich King against Quest Rogue.
Right.
But against a deck like this, where they have so much powerful ability to clear off the board and preserve their life total, it is not as effective a deck to close these sort of games out.
Well, Divine Spirit is 1 less piece. So Noblord is pretty close to discovering Vivid Nightmare. He needs 2 of them to compensate for the 1 Radiant Elemental that was gone.
Right.
And for people who are not familiar with how this priest works, it sets up a 3 Radiant Elementals and a test subject to infinitely chain buffs. Because test subject says, Death Rattle return any spells you've cast on this minion. So you keep casting a bunch of health buffs, but then just flip it for like maximum damage on the Stone Test board.
Oh, look at this. Magnetic and the Dead Ringer.
That's very cute.
Ya.
That's very cute.
Yeah.
And effective.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just a play that looked fancy. It's actually the very good play here. And Tansoku does have ways to continue to put on pressure, but it's not like he has that much substance. He has a Consecration set up in some kind of capacity this turn.
Let me think.
Guess what he also can do is Spellbreaker ahead preemptively.
It is worth noting that Tansoku's list includes 2 copies of Nerubian Unraveler that he has yet to draw. And that has to be something that Noblord is worried about. Because if he does land a Nerubian Unraveler, it is very difficult for Noblord to actually win the game without... You had a little perplexed look.
Sorry, I was just wondering if this was like a slight order thing, but I think it's fine.
Well, I think he was specifically trying... yeah, he could have... Well, he wanted to silence away the card draw.
Right. But you could have just traded the 1/1 in Consecration and then played the Pyromancer.
Would have given him 5 life, right? Because it's attacking to a Ziliax.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah. The 5 extra life. Oh, yeah. That's all. I was wondering if, like,
Oh,
made a
well,
difference.
the
that's
Shadow Visions finds
kind of a
a
big deal.
Psychic Screen, but does not find a way for Noblord to get to that Vivid Nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, he can still draw it manually.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his second Shadow Visions, I believe, right?
It was.
So he needs to
And
deck out,
he also
essentially.
needs Boar.
Yes, that is true, too. Yeah, this is a very cute play from Noblord as well. It's an opportunity to get the Vivid Nightmare back just by having the Spirit Lash. Still needs that Santos Boar, still needs 1 more way to get that Radiant Elemental.
Well, he actually, this does give it to him because he got the additional Vivid Nightmare, and
Yeah.
now he does have 2 Vivid Nightmares, but he does still need Boar.
Yes. That's a good draw. Tansoku has the ability to pressure with 9 damage now, plus the Sunken returns, that's 12. Chusover means a 16 on the following turn.
But noblord, he's just below 30. All right, well, he's got a lot of Vivid Nightmares now.
Yeah, and he's got Psychic Scream this turn, which is ability to reset the board pressure, and then with Power Shield giving him another draw.
The big problem, though, is Nerubian Unraveler. He has to have Psychic Scream if Tansoku rather plays Nerubian Unraveler,
You're right.
or he cannot win the game.
You're right.
So that's why he can't just pull the trigger here. He decides he has to Spirit Lash, because if Tansoku does play Nerubian Unraveler and noblord does not have an answer, his deck is incapable of winning.
Man, that is difficult to say the least for noblord because.
Well, this is I believe a 2-turn clock, right? Including the Acidic Swampoos. He has 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, Tansoku is threatening lethal, so if noblord does not win the game now, he has to play Psychic Scream. Looks like he found it. That's the boar.
No,
okay, well, he knows he's just going for it because I believe he's pretty much guaranteed with that powered shield because he can cycle through with the Topsy. He can now
actually, yeah, because the test
guaranteed
subject,
to draw his last card.
Yeah, he's guaranteed to draw his last card because the test subject will return the power shield. So that's actually really good.
Yeah, so this is noblord recognizing, okay, I don't have it, but I'm guaranteed to get it with these powered shields, topsy-turvies.
You're about to see also why it's called APM Priest.
Yeah, as noblord is going to just keep pressing buttons very quickly, and there is definitely the hand size concern at some point in these games. But players who decide they're going to bring this deck to a championship have gone through sufficient iterations that they understand. Okay, well these are the things that I need to do and can do in order to make this work.
Just has to copy it 1 or 2 more times, and as long as he holds on to the topsy-turvy, which should be perfectly fine, he can copy the board and hit for 30.
And don't mind the rope, because that is the rope from Tansoku's side, and it won't even necessarily the game won't necessarily end when it stops burning here, because noblord has time to queue all these actions. They don't necessarily have time to resolve, and we're gonna see. Yep. Just kind of sit back, relax. Here's the 40-point boar. Still gonna get through another taunt though. It's an 80-point boar. He's still gonna get through another taunt though.
Oh, yeah.
But he's gonna do it. He's got the vivid attacks through, and yeah, I just saw the screen shake. There it is.
I like it.
I don't.
The theme of the expansion is overkill, Killer.
It is. And there's 80 damage to the face for noblord, who does get a very important deck through. That was a deck that could be vulnerable to the aggressive lineup from Tansoku, but as we said, the Priest deck can, or rather the Paladin deck, can kind of stumble and not quite put together enough aggression in the early game once the Priest is able to get its Mass Hysterias and Psychic Screams online.
Yeah, and noblord played extremely well, given that he understood exactly what the range of draws that he needed, trying to nail down everything from do I draw first with the minion with my loot hoarder and then the dead ringer, things like that. So things are looking good for our USA player in Tansoku. He has to be sweating a little bit, but we still have a lot more Hearthstone to play, so don't go anywhere. More HCT action continues right after this.
めちゃくちゃ嬉しいです。もう1年にその2回も行けるって思ってなかったので、いやもう運が良かったなって思います。
Out of nowhere.
なんかでも前向きにやっぱ頑張れるとこですかね。あんまりそうですね、なんか嫌なことがあっても、1日寝れば全部こう忘れて、次の日から頑張れるところは気に入ってます。でも緊張しないようにプレーできると思います。もう前回は初めてのアメリカってこともあって、もうずっと手ガクガク震えてたんですけど、今回は多分そういうことはねないと思うんで、リラックスしてプレーできると思います。全然ですね、なんかむしろいつも惜しいとこまで行くんですけど、なんかそこまで行けただけ運が良かったのかなって自分は思ってたので、いつも準優勝とか多いんですけど、それでもラッキーだと思うので、そうですね、楽観的に。いや、美味しいものをたくさん食べたいですね。やっぱり 脂っこい食べ物がもう大好きなので、もうファストフードの店に行きたいです。たくさん。自分はまだ小籠包を食べたことがなくて、いやもうそれを食べるためにこの1年頑張ってきたんで、いやなんかいつもマックでチーズバーガーを買うことが多いんですけど、もし勝てたらダブルチーズバーガーにしようかなって、思ってます。
Hi, I'm Noblord, and I'm from New Jersey. I'm most comfortable when I'm not wearing shoes, so I take them off when I play in high-pressure situations just to ease the stress. Even when I was very little, I just did not like wearing sandals, didn't like wearing flip-flops. I would just go bare feet. I really enjoyed that feeling of being outside, just one with nature, you know.
Bloody Face is walking away, but most importantly, congratulations to noblord. What a game.
Hearthstone more so fills the competitive drive within me. So as opposed to the side of me that likes to be relaxed, and then there's a super competitive side. So I actually placed nationally in junior lifeguarding, an event known as Beach Flags, which is sort of a racing thing. And so that sort of got my hunger for competition going. I think I've had much more practice at handling my emotions, because I've lost a lot.
Noblord is pretty much just cornered, and that's gonna wrap up the series.
Players at this stage, they get really nervous, they make misplays a lot of the time, and so I want to just try and play my best and make my play as clean as possible. I would like to say thank you to my family, to my friends and fans for these 4 years in the Hearthstone community. I have really appreciated all of you being there for me, and I really enjoyed my time here.
Whew. That was quite the introduction to both Tansoku and Noblord. I don't really know what to say other than I think I finally understand why it smells like that in here. Just kidding. We're on the other side of the studio. Can't even really see Noblord or Tansoku right now. But yeah, definitely stay relaxed. That is the #1 most important thing after people who have ascended to the level of getting to a championship. Just stick to the game and play your best Hearthstone, but don't even try to overdo it.
We've heard so many players talk about how important mental state is, and if you feel like you can play better when you're not wearing shoes, go for it. And I used to have a ritual when I competed in tournaments that I would pick a song before every event, and I'd play it and listen to it to get myself focused before every single round that I'd play.
Yeah.
And who knows if it helped, but I thought it helped. And if you hate sandals, you just want to be barefoot, go for it, man.
Yeah, well, I'm speculating what songs you actually listen to at this point.
There's a long list. There's
Okay, it's a
very,
playlist.
very long list.
I thought it was just one song that pumped you up every time.
I picked a song for every event. It was a particular song that I chose for each event. It was a new one.
I really hope it's Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins.
That was never one of them.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. You were my idol, killer. Let's go into game number 2. Speaking of Danger Zone, if Tansoku lets this through, he will be in big trouble, because this was the other deck that he'd be very comfortable with. Quest Rogue does have pretty poor matchups across the board.
Well, it does, but there's that draw.
The Sonya Shadow Dancer.
Shadow Step, and a Charger.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of draw that really can beat anything in Quest Rogue. And while this deck from Tansoku is a powerful one that can have a decent matchup here, it does need to have the board in order to do its Inner Fire shenanigans.
Oh, yeah. That being said, Inner Fire Priest, or Combo Priest, has a very quick win condition through, even just sometimes you win on turn 4.
Yep.
And I like that aspect of it a lot, in the sense that you have to fear every single minion, no matter how innocuous. A 1-3 Acolyte of Pain can suddenly become a 10-10, over the course of a turn through Divine Spirit and
With a
Fire.
second Shadow Step draw here, so Noblord, he's got all the pieces.
Oh, yeah, that 1-2 step is nasty.
He doesn't have a preparation, which is, would be the next thing that he really wants to piece things together to get the quest out quickly.
It's the unholy trinity. Sonya, Shadow Dancer plus Shadow Step, and preparation. Okay. So with that attack, Noblord wants to, one, consume Tansoku's turn by letting him heal that, so that way there's less pressure opportunities for him. And also, if he does end up going for, you know, Divine Spirit and Fire, it just means that he has less damage to push through. Also, I think that, like, if his opponent developed a Twilight Drake, it open up flexibility for him to, say, play, you know, South Sea Deckhand and whatnot, and help him clear off the board.
Yeah, Tansoku really debating here exactly how he wants to manage this turn. Twilight Drake is obviously the efficient mana play here, but you know he knows there is a Sonya Shadow Dancer. Does he want to play something that he could, that Noblord could attack a Vicious Scalehide into? And that's got to be something that he's considering here.
Right.
Is someone injured?
Oh. I don't know if it's necessarily worth tossing the Circle of Healing in, but he chooses to throw in Divine Spirit.
Well, this does set up a very difficult to kill Northshire Cleric with a Circle of Healing in hand and a Dragonmaw Scorcher. So he can play Scorcher plus Circle next turn. And you know, Noblord, you know, we see has the Charger and can take out at least some of these.
I mean,
and we also see has a Shadow Step.
Quest,
right.
You know. So if he plays his boar, he has the ability to even coin out the boar one more time, but I think he can get it done with just his dagger as well. It's up to his choice here. Having that extra mana flexibility with the coin actually is fairly relevant. Now I'm just going to stop and think about it for a second, which I like. You know, this might seem fairly obvious, like, oh yeah, you know, have the Santo Sports, so you have the 5th copy, and then you could play it. But that doesn't mean you finish the quest that turn.
Well, he also just has Shadow Step too, so he has the 5th copy. He has Boar and a Shadow Step at a later date.
That makes sense. So he can play the boar and then Shadow Step it, and the next turn play the boar and then finish the quest.
Or even just play the boar, Shadow Step it next turn, then replay it, and then play the quest.
That's fair.
He doesn't need to use the coin now.
Sure.
There is, you know, do I want to get rid of that 2-3, or 2-1 rather, and get another boar? He's already played the 3. This is number 4. This way he can Shadow Step his Sonya and not leave anything for Tansoku to attack into and draw cards off of.
That's
which I think
fair.
is part of the sort of mindset of what his play was there. But we see there's the Dragonmaw Scorcher plus Circle of Healing, which the Scorcher alone is a draw. Circle of Healing is 2 draws.
Yeah, and if it's another Divine Favor, or sorry, Divine Spirit plus Inner Fire.
There's an Inner Fire.
Dude,
There's a Witch Doctor.
this game can end next turn.
There's a Wax Elemental, so there's at least some defensive options for Noblord here. And Preparation is a big draw too.
That is a massive draw.
But right now, Noblord, you know, he needs to play the Stone Tusk Boar. In order to actually advance his quest, he could play Stone Tusk Boar, and that's Stone Tusk Boar number 5, correct? Because he coined it out last turn, and then he can prep out the quest and play the Wax Elemental. But that's actually, you know, and then kill the 1/3.
Well, what's kind of scary is that that Northshire Cleric being a 1/10.
Right.
So I mean,
but the Wax Elemental protects him because it has the Divine Shield at least.
There's a silence in the deck, though.
It's true.
There's 2 silences.
But your opponent would have to have, you know, a silence.
A silence and a Divine Spirit and an Inner Fire.
Right.
But they did just draw a bunch of cards.
It's true.
I don't know, Brian. I still feel very wary about
The
this
Sonya
situation.
here is actually pretty interesting because the Sonya says, okay, well, you know, if you kill my stuff, just getting it back unless you kill Sonya first, and the eternal refrain of, oh, that's a 4-attack minion, pretty hard for that priest to kill.
Right. So Tansoku has the Shadow Visions and the Fire Tree Witch Doctor, but he doesn't have enough mana to play everything. He doesn't have the ability to play those 2 cost cards plus Divine Spirit plus Inner Fire. So he might want to draw a Circle of Healing first.
If it weren't for the Sonya, he could actually just Duskbreaker through here.
I think you go for the win in this
Yeah,
spot.
no, I agree with you. I think that's a you know, definitely.
Oh wait.
All right. Well, there's 20, but there's 21.
But because he attacked first, that's right, and didn't get the silence, he doesn't get the 23 in with the
true.
damage. So because of that extra draw, he did get the Divine Spirit number 2.
He has Shadow Visions, which combines Silence, and then he has Divine Spirit, Inner Fire. But that's 20.
Yeah. And there's a Silence.
There's the Silence.
If he was able to pick up all 3. He's 1 damage off lethal.
He is 1 damage off lethal. He has a Witch Doctor in hand, though. And he can go for 20 damage right now.
Yes.
And say, okay, you know, can you stop me from doing this? Can you deal with my board?
Are you serious?
Frankly, though, that's
still scary because
there's a
Sonya's on the
Sonya
board.
in play.
Yeah.
And there's a 4/4 Ziliax. That does not get you out of Mind Blast range if that's what Fire Tree Witch Doctor
Well,
finds.
you can just clear, right?
He
With
can
the Stone
indeed
Toast
clear,
board?
yes, with the Stone Toast board.
Stone Toast board, and then play a Wax Elemental to wrap things up. But then Tansoku's 1 silence away from it.
Right. Or 1 Mind Blast or Smite if you don't gain life.
Correct.
He has seen 1 Witch Doctor so far, I believe.
I'm trying to look if there's any direct damage in the deck.
No, there's
as well.
there's no direct damage naturally in the deck, but there are the 2 Witch Doctors. All right, well, Noblord is going to be trying to take down this 2020 Cleric.
Yeah, Noblord kind of hesitating because he would want to trade in the Wax Elemental so he can get the copy of Wax Elemental in his hand. That
He
is
wants the taunt.
important sequence.
Oh, no.
Okay, so he wants to kill off both these minions before attacks.
All right. Well, there is no haste creature here. No charge creature.
You are correct. In fact,
But
there's no haste creatures in the entire
What do we got from Fire Tree Witch Doctor? A Smite will do it.
Oh, Mind Blast.
Oh, look at that Noblord's face. No, there
Wait,
is.
you can Devour Mind and charge him. You can Devour Mind the Stone Toast board. Oh, he doesn't have mana.
He does not have enough
Okay.
mana to Devour Mind
He
Stone
can
Toast
Mind
board.
Control in 2 turns.
But 2 turns, that's Ziliax will be able to attack by then.
Oh,
And you see, Tansoku knows there's no more boards in the deck even for the Devour Mind, too.
He wants that double cheeseburger
It's
so bad.
Close. 1 life left for Noblord.
Actually, I like the Devour Mind because you might be able to even pick up like a Vanish.
Devour Mind is the one that does something here. I think that Mind Control is way too slow.
Right.
I think that the Twilight's Call clearly just does 0. Devour Mind can give you something that does something.
It's just,
They're
oh,
4/4.
yeah, it keeps
Oh!
the copy. That's right, the interact.
Oh,
okay.
right. They're in the deck as 4/4s.
Yes, this was actually a specific interaction copy.
I had totally forgotten that worked that way.
Back when they changed, like, as you know.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
fairly
look at
useful.
Tansoku's face.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not
Yeah,
this.
now if he had the opportunity to get that Mind Blast, it's gone now because he doesn't have the ability to discover yet another one. And now the wheels are falling off,
And
Gibbler.
the Sonya, too. Even if you have Duskbreaker to clear these off, sorry, Sonya brings them back.
Unless he's able to silence it or damage it beforehand.
Well, Silence doesn't do anything.
It was silenced as Sonya, so that
Sure,
way she
sure,
doesn't
sure,
get the
sure.
copies,
But
right?
now he's also at 14.
Right. So
And
now it's not even worried
Bounce
about
is going to bring back, I assume, the Boar.
Right.
No, I'm wrong.
Okay, that's still resilient. There's no Psychic Scream in this deck either.
No,
There's
there
no
is
Mass
not.
Hysteria.
There is.
That is the one downside of this Dragon variant of the Combo Priest.
That's the Silence.
Okay, well, you can silence the Ziliax, and then Vicious Scale had the Sonya.
Yep, that is an option.
And then you could, like, you can Dustbreaker, then, like, Glacial Shard. That's kind of like the only thing that I see right now.
The Wax Elemental in the hand. You see Noblord with his working everything out on his fingers in front of him.
What about Silence, Vicious Scale, Hide, Extra Arms? That gives you 5 mana. You can trade proactively, still freeze. You gain an extra 5 life. You go up to 18, which is still just shy of the dagger plus 4 chargers. Wait, no, you also Zola doesn't keep it though. It doesn't keep the buff. That's right.
He's silencing that and then using the Scale Hide. This is just worse than silencing the Ziliax, right?
Yeah. Unless... Nope, it is, because you just gave that 4 life.
Right, he just gave him 4 life.
Also, this gives the ability for them to just bounce back Sonya in some
Right.
capacity, too.
So a little bit of a misstep there from Tansoku.
I mean, it might end up costing him big, but I think with this, especially with Valera coming down next turn, I think noblord was safe anyways. The one caveat is that Tansoku still has some quality minions in his hand. You know,
He does.
things like Witchwood Grizzly plus extra harms will pretty much absorb all the attacks.
Yeah, but there's Valera for Noblord, though, which does mean that even if he doesn't close the game immediately, he does have that endless stream of quest rogue threats that he's going to be able to generate.
Well, this is so Witchwood Grizzly plus extra arms is a 5/12
Yep.
right now because it's a 3/10 after the penalty, and then it gains +2/+2, which means that anything that trades into it will cost will basically be the full life. So you could Glacial Shard along with that because that's a clean 9 mana. I guess this accomplishes something similar because it damages the board plus pushes Witchwood Grizzly. It's just that I like the idea of Witchwood Grizzly staying on the board, so that way maybe you have an opportunity to interfire the following turn and then push more damage.
Duskbreaker Grizzly just better. Duskbreaker Grizzly gives you a Grizzly that doesn't die. If you play Grizzly into
Glacial
Extra
Shard?
Arms.
And Glacial Shard.
Oh, Grizzly. Okay.
Right,
But you were thinking with the Glacial Shard as well.
Yeah. Because then I could use the Duskbreaker. Well, I guess the Duskbreaker can't push past the Divine Shield top minion that easy. Oh, this is definitely the aggressive play too from Tansoku. This is more power on the board. I like this one too, now that I look at it, because this gives Tansoku a better fighting chance to potentially break through. And now Noblord can make a decision if he feels like he can get better quality minions right now, or he wants to play Valera the Hollow and then ramp up to making a comeback onto the board.
He can even prep fan Valera. He can't stab if he Valera's without giving up his charge on his future guys.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, actually, I like that prep fan. So that way, if it did change his play, like say he picked up Mimic Pod, maybe he would have considered it. But now Tansoku, that hurts a lot.
That we can see the pain on his face from that play.
But still, Tansoku still has plays available to him. Oh, that's silence. The silence. That silence is actually a really big deal.
It is.
Because if your opponent silences the Witchwood Grizzly and you freeze it, you actually get the 12 health.
You do.
And then if he gets 12 plus the extra arms buff plus the 4 attack from the Twilight Drake, that's 14, 16, 16 plus 4 is 20. He would kill him. Well, actually, no, he would freeze both minions on the board.
Right.
Okay. Unless you play the Radiant Elemental too, because then that's 18.
I think you definitely want to play the Radiant here. Yeah, for sure. Witchwood Grizzly into Radiant to heal your guy.
There's a chance!
This could still be going Tansoku's way.
Think you want to heal the... Whoa, okay. This is actually something...
There's still another fan in the deck, right? I think
Right.
I think you have to heal the Drake.
I would want to heal the Drake. You can also buff the Grizzly preemptively, but then there's the Vanish.
I think you want to, you want to save that extra arms for damage to push.
Yeah, it's just that also if they find a way to double charge in some capacity, like because Valera will give you 2 copies of a card. 3 charges would push through it versus the extra arms will allow them to stay alive. Now Noblord's shaking his head.
What's the draw?
Mimic
Pod.
That's big.
Into Zola.
Oh, that's. Oh, it does not enough mana though. Is it? Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah, you can freeze.
Yeah.
Into freeze.
Not double Zola. To freeze 3
into
minions.
Zola into freeze.
Okay, now Tansoku needs 1 power word shield. No, he needs a Divine Spirit. Power shield wouldn't be enough.
No, if he silences the Grizzly, it becomes 12 health.
Right.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, right?
Oh, he didn't
It's
freeze.
lethal. This is lethal.
He didn't freeze the Radiant Elemental. This is lethal.
This is
100%.
lethal. He silences the Grizzly, it becomes 12 health.
Yes.
Extra arms, inner fire, 18 damage.
Yes, that was the exact scenario we were talking about.
It was, and he sees it. He sees the sense. Look at the sigh from Noblord. He cannot believe it. Tansoku checking his math. It's like, okay, this is it, right?
Yeah, use your fingers and toes. Noblord does.
He can just inner fire the other way too. Inner fire the Grizzly plus 4 power the other one. Either way, it works.
It works. He's double, triple checking.
Piecing it together just does not want to screw this one up because this game was crazy, and it will be Tansoku who finds the damage, and Noblord, he looks like he's in pain.
Yeah, he knows.
He had the Glacial Shard. He could have stopped that damage, and he is feeling the pressure as Tansoku. He looks like he's in his element, you know. After losing that first game, he looked like he was feeling pretty rough, but now he's the one sort of shaking it off, taking those deep breaths, while Noblord, he's got his head in his hands.
Drama. That's what I want to see.
Absolutely.
In Hearthstone Esports, and I think that's kind of exactly what's happening here. Noblord is shaken. He is upset, to say the least, about what he just did. I mean, you even saw that he tossed in that emote at the very end. It's like, oops. But, you know, that is unfortunately, that's the only way to express your frustration at yourself in that game. I'm sure he'd probably use a much heavier word than oops.
I mean, that's the sort of situation where, you know, you are a top player. You have performed so many times on so many stages, and now you are here in an elimination match, and one slip-up can cost you everything.
And now this best of 5 has turned to a best of 3. Noblord looked like he was in position to go up 2-0. And when we come back, we'll find out what happens in game number 3.
すごいなんかあれなんですけど、自分ではあんまりデッキ作らなくて、人のデッキをコピーすることばっかしかしてないので、あんまり自分では作らないですね。まず自分の強みですか。そうですね。デッキを作るのはあんまり得意ではないので、ひたすらもうプレイって感じですね、自分は。速度、そうでもミッドレンジハンターが増えたので、やっぱりそうですね、マグロ系のデッキはもうポンポンゲームが進むので、やっぱプレイ速度は速くなってると思います。でも自分はもともとプレイがすごい速くて、雑になることが多かったので、よくちゃんと考えてプレイしろっていうのはフレンドの人に言われましたね。ハッファーとかですかね。でもなんかもう元気よく走り回ってるイメージがあるので、何も考えずにハッファーになりたいですね。ミッドレンジハンターの3マナの猟犬を放てと、あと2マナのなんか復活するカードのコンボですかね。それにハイエナとかを絡めるとめちゃくちゃダメージを出せるので、いやそれはなんか
When you play a Hearthstone deck and you know you're playing it like to perfection, you just feel like you're on top of the world. You know that you are the best player at that deck. I felt that with Malagos Druid, and I felt that with Reno Mage. I like to think very logically, so if there's a certain play, I'll try to do the math. If I have the chance, I'll do the odds of the cards in his hand, his deck, and like generate all that sort of stuff. I'll try to factor it in and make my decision based off that. People sort of underrate like how well I'm able to play because I have this insane amount of consistency on ladder, but I don't really have the stats to back me up. Like I don't travel around to tournaments, so I only have prelims, and the prelims tournaments I haven't done too well in. Outside of those, I've had pretty decent win rates and I've been playing fairly well, so hopefully my play translates to this tournament. I really learned that I had like a super strong affinity towards the combo decks. Like I would watch the Asia playoffs or like the EU playoffs, and I would notice a bunch of misplays. And so I was like, oh, I'm actually quite strong on these decks. So if there's an opportunity to bring them, I'll bring them. And so that's what ended up happening. I brought 2 OTK decks, 1 control deck, and 1 mid-range deck.
What?
I'm not doing this.
He didn't even get to hear my British accent. Bollocks! What tomfoolery is this?
Balderdash?
Rubbish?
Malarkey?
Poppycock?
Codswallop?
London Bridge is falling down? Tea and crumpets. I'm so smart and Raven's dumb.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Championship Tour. You heard it from noblord himself that he favors consistency. He points out misplays, including his own. And, well, I think that game was an excellent reminder of that. Look, when it comes to being a high-level player in a game like this, you have to be your own harshest critic. And I'm pretty sure, just based off of a quick glance on how noblord is conducting himself after Game 2, he's in his own mind yelling at himself right now.
I think he may go back and watch that game and say, that was Codswallop.
Rubbish.
Malarkey.
And yes, Raven is in fact dumb. It has to be what go through his mind right now. And also, guys, if he wins this series and advances and maybe goes to the World Championship, he has an opportunity to buy some socks finally.
He doesn't want anything constrained, man.
I just think the cameraman kept showing that. Either that or the editor has some very exquisite and exotic tastes.
It was a little much.
Yeah.
It was a little much.
But look, I mean, he's getting into the Hafu position, which I see her doing that more than anything, which is putting the knees up and trying to relax into a little ball while you rock yourself in comfort to forget all the misplays that you did. It's very relatable. Mid-range Hunter versus Even Paladin. This is a pretty pretty close matchup. I do think it tends to favor the Even Paladin because of how much aggression they can put on. And I mean, that was before they also had equality to have like a decisive clear and stuff. I wonder how it is now ever since that nerf.
This matchup is very, very oriented toward who has stronger early game. The Even Paladin does have the guaranteed one-drop with that hero power. Noblord, he has a Hunter's Hatchet, but did not have a one-drop. If he had a turn one play there to support the additional charge of Headhunter's Hatchet, it would have been much, much stronger. The Unleash the Hounds is not nearly as powerful in this matchup as it is against Odd Paladin, of course. Since the Even Paladin is much more built around consolidating around individual threats in the mid-game.
Yeah, does that dissuade him from playing his Hunter's Hatchet now? Or does he play instead the tracking and dig for a one-mana minion so that he can try and fight back for the board the following turn?
If he trackings and does not find almost exactly Spring Paw, he's in a pretty bad spot.
Dire Maul's also a pretty good candidate.
If he does find Dire Maul for right now, if he finds Spring Paw, which is particularly good because he can answer an Amani Berserker the following turn.
Right.
But Tansoku, he has that Amani Berserker, which is very powerful at dealing with a lot of the early game that noblord does have access to.
I like this Scavenger Hyena pick because there's already Unleash the Hounds in hand, so noblord does have those 1/1 chargers to make that swing turn. And this is the precise reason why a lot of mid-range hunters started gravitating towards Tundra Rhinos two Tundra Rhinos, because I remember for a while people were putting only one deck list and favoring like 2 high mates. But having multiple Tundra Rhinos is good because maybe you pass one through tracking, or maybe you need to play one for tempo and you don't necessarily have one for calm with a late game. It's just a very versatile card in this deck.
It's time for a little blood.
Another Scavenging Hyena. So, noblord has a couple of choices here, but they're not amazing. Animal Companion also, depending on what comes out of it, could also have a varying degree range of effectiveness.
Yeah, he'd love to get a Misha or a Leok to just straight up trade with a Berserker, frankly. He's really hoping Tansoku does not have coin Kings, since he doesn't have any great way to handle that coming down next turn.
Yeah.
Though noblord does, he does not play, he plays 1 copy of Hunter's Mark. So, there is some answer if there's some big threat that comes out for Tansoku, but perhaps more threatening is just Coin Corpse Taker, because that, especially if there is a Blessing of Kings to follow that up, kind of makes it impossible for a lot of noblord's control elements or any of his aggression to make much of a dent.
Quickly.
I mean, I'm even wondering if there's any merit for noblord to just rip the Master's Call to try to see if he can get better.
It is an option for sure. Master's Call is a strong chance of finding a Spring Paw. All right, there's a Misha.
Okay. As long as it's not Blessing or Truce over.
Oh,
What a bad draw for Tansoku.
The Wind Fury Harpy does mean that Coin Corpse Taker is much weaker here because it loses the Wind Fury.
That
And
is,
looks like he's going to choose to play the Hydrologist instead. Does find Noble Sacrifice. Noble Sacrifice is actually kind of interesting because it's quite poor against Unleash or Spring Paw.
Yeah, Hunter's a class that
Same thing
can
with Matrix as well.
effectively answer these secrets pretty efficiently. I wonder if Tansoku is even considering Hidden Wisdom in some capacity. Hunter does end up going for big swing turns with a lot of cheap minions, so Hidden Wisdom is likely to hit. Drawing 2 cards might be your way to outvalue things like Master's Call. You know, Master's Call plus Hidden Wisdom sort of cancels each other out.
Gonna take the Noble Sacrifice here.
I think he favors board tempo more than anything. Even Paladin doesn't have the late game advantage whatsoever if mid-range Hunter gets set up.
One of the big things here is that if there is no Spring Paw, and I think Tansoku has a reasonable feeling that there isn't a Spring Paw at this point, this does mean that noblord needs to have Unleash for this to not get at least some value. There's only a single Unleash in the deck as well.
At the same time,
Unleash is also a lot weaker if it's played rather if it's not played in combination with the Hyena.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now noblord has an opportunity to set up that weapon, that Headhunter. Oh god, Headhunter's Hatchet. Say that 5 times fast.
Headhunter's Hatchet. Headhunter's Hatchet. Headhunter's Hatchet. Headhunter's Hatchet. Headhunter's Hatchet. Gotcha.
Well played. Well played. Your reward: you get to cast the rest of this game by yourself, Kibler.
My dream.
The Headhunter's Hatchet, hey, I can say it.
You did it.
Is
Good job.
is pretty useful in this position to pick apart that early game board. The only thing that I'm wondering is, what do we add on top of that? Are we playing the Scavenging Hyena just because it fills out the curve better and we don't think there's a pretty good chance to get 2 Hyenas pumped up? Or perhaps instead,
interesting.
That attack.
Okay, so he chose to play around. He wanted to try and get 1 damage if possible from an auto defense matrix by attacking there.
I like it. It's a greedy play because it can blow out. And, you know, a lot of times people will pick the auto defense matrix in a lot of those positions. Yeah, definitely a lot of upside to that play. And also, the second Hyena that he drew and played.
That didn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah, I think noblord.
I wonder.
I mean, it's Oopson says that he could have maximized it a little better.
Attack the other way. Like if he attacks with the weapon first, then there's no threat of auto defense matrix doing anything, and then he can kill the 2/3.
Right. No, that's a good point too.
So I think noblord may be a little bit rattled here.
No, you're actually right. No, I think he thought a little too deep into that one, like thinking he was trying to be clever, but instead, you know, I try to give him the benefit of the doubt, and then upon thinking about it, and when you just brought it up, I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yes, there's
that opportunity.
there's no way that goes wrong.
Right. No, it's spot on. And the Spellbreaker is a pretty significant punish because it helps him clear off efficiently.
This does mean that noblord has Unleash plus Hyena.
It does actually play into the Unleash
and can full clear the board and buff up the second Hyena. We see a little bit of wince
Whoa.
from Tansoku here.
That was also one of the fastest turns noblord's ever played. He really wants to move on with his life. He does not like to sit and
forget about last game, forget about this game. I want him over.
Yeah.
I want you dead.
It's very, no one wants to stew in their own mistakes,
right.
you know?
Absolutely.
And now that you can't deal with this Scavenging Hyena, what does Tansoku do? His best play to control the state of the board is to coin out Sunkeeper Tarim.
Yeah.
And that is not a position you want to be in because the board naturally trades against yours.
Right. And noblord does have, if noblord can find a Spring Paw with a Master's Call.
Oh yeah, that's
it's
a clear.
Oh
boy. Oh yeah.
I think we start with Master's Call though, because finding a Spring Paw means that you, yes, there it is. Okay, so there's a couple of options here.
Oh my goodness, it's so juicy.
A noblord can just play Spring Paw, trade with the board, so he gets 3. And this is, I think, what he will do to hold onto the Hunter's Mark if there's something additional. Okay. Crackling Razormaw is actually a little bit of a risk.
That is pretty.
I think he almost played it, but if you Razormaw here and you do not get something that gives you attack, you don't get to connect with the Hyena now.
Right, you have to use the Hyenas to overtrade.
Right, yeah, and it looks like noblord briefly was like, okay, I want to do this, then wait, hold on. got to take it a little bit slower. But now he
Exactly.
gets 3 trades to buff this Hyena once again, and it's even bigger than when it started. 9 to the face.
Yeah, puts effectively a 2-turn clock onto Tansoku, and now Tansoku.
And Tansoku already used his coin. He can't play the Spiker Seed this turn. He does have
Right.
Corpse Taker, but there's Tundra Rhino here.
Yeah, and by the way, that Hyena is still just gonna get stronger with each trade in. This lifesteal might prove to
It
be
does
really
matter.
effective.
The lifesteal does matter quite a bit. Yeah, the Crackling Razor Maw plus Tundra Rhino guaranteed clear.
Okay.
Wind Fury.
That's
and
just guaranteed
This, I believe,
lethal.
is just lethal here because these both die. That becomes a million, and then attacks for a million twice.
That's right. Twice over 1 million is about a lot of damage.
And Noblord comes back from a shaky game 2 to pick up game number 3. And it looks like he's getting back into the zone.
Yeah, very much needed here because, you know, again, if Mid-Range Hunter went down, he'd just have less breathing room. And now all that kind of remains is whether or not he can get that win with Quest Rogue. And he needs as many chances as possible. And as we witnessed in the previous series, excuse me, even Paladin versus Quest Rogue still does give Quest Rogue a chance, even though it's a low percentage.
Yeah, and Noblord, if he does lose this series with a Quest Rogue loss, I imagine he'll be going back to look at that game 2 and thinking, well, would I have won this one if I just frozen that Radiant Elemental?
Right. I mean, the game could have still kept going. Like, we didn't have
Sure.
a guarantee. Like,
There was-
yes, Tansoku was low in life, but you know he would have had a big taunt regardless.
Correct.
So the game would have still continued. But Noblord definitely had that opportunity to stay alive, and I mean, it feels like he did to a certain degree throw that game.
Yep. And I think that he's got to get back inside his head, or rather out of his own head, sort of recenter, and just get back to playing the game.
Yeah. And meanwhile, on Tansoku's side, he's the one that's favored going into this. I mean, this is another potential upset that we see based off of how the matchup spread goes. Like, Tansoku should be a 60-40 favorite, and that's pretty significant. In Hearthstone, you're happy enough to get 55 edge. That usually means that you're pretty favored, because just the way, like, if you have more than a 55 edge, then that just means that you brought like the counter lineup. 64 is already really biased. And then people like Bunny Hopper went one step further and like went super aggro, and then they're like 70-30 favorite, which means on average you win every best of 5.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
Math checks out.
Yeah. So in this case, Noblord, ooh, that's a pretty good start though. Glacial Shards with the Zola.
And Tansoku has a pretty weak hand himself. He does have the Hydrologist, but again, in the opening hand, and Consecration are not what he's looking for. Corpse Taker, though, that's a draw you want.
It is. I do argue that the 2 drops are just as important to snowball their early advantage to make sure they don't get anything going in the early game here.
Certainly.
Yeah, and normally, again, you take a second to think about how you want to map out your turns. Do you, for example, want to hold off on the quest to do something else? I don't know if this is one of those games to do that, because even Paladin is not like Odd Rogue. Odd Rogue's like something that comes out right out the gate, and you need to stop like their 1-drop sometimes. But even Paladin, their power spikes come at turn 4 usually, like you were talking about, the Corpse Taker, the Blessing of Kings. So you still have a little bit of breathing room, and saving things like the coin is really valuable for Evelyn Minstrel.
And even your dagger can do a decent amount of work because they do just use that hero power to make one.
It's true. It's true. One thing to pay attention to is how does Noblord play with his life total as a resource this game? I think that dagger is indicative of just that.
One interesting thing is the first time I believe we've seen Tansoku actually draw this Nerubian Unraveler. And while this isn't a matchup where it's particularly targeting, it's mostly powerful against Psychic Scream decks where they're looking to use their mass removal spell or something like a Spellstone in order to block off those big turns. But it can be pretty powerful in this matchup if your opponent is relying on preparation, if they're relying on Vanish, if they're relying on actually just playing the quest itself.
Right.
It can keep them off of it in a very meaningful way. It's difficult for them to remove a 5/5 without actually having already completed the quest.
It's true. Yeah, let's say that you know that they're holding quest in the hand, you just play the Nerubian Unraveler, force them to do something else that turn.
Reporting for duty.
All right, the last of the weak turns here from Tansoku, because he is about to hit some really good stuff. Assuming he doesn't draw Wind Fury Harpy again. Point Evelyn Minstrel.
There once was a man from Gilneas.
Looking to piece together everything he needs. He will not be attacking with that dagger.
Tansoku trade into the Elven Minstrel and push damage. Try to protect the Divine Shield as best as you can, but this is where having that Glacier Sword Zola is really nice.
Yep. I do appreciate that because on these tournament accounts, all of the normal cards, the non-legendary cards, are regular, and the legendary cards are gold. Zola's ability actually matters because you get a gold copy.
Yeah, that's right. You can help
It's
remember.
like, that's the one from Zola.
Exactly. You're like,
I know.
oh yeah, I can deck track a little bit easier mentally because I remember all the golden cards have to be non-legendary. All right.
Reporting for duty.
I mean, that consecration just makes sense given that he doesn't have a really good blessing of King's opportunity and doesn't want to let his opponent have Sonya.
There she is once again, Sonya.
Sonya with the preparation. No Shadow Step, but this might still be good enough in the next couple turns or so. Noblord can freeze once more and now doesn't have to be relying on Glacial Shard to get the quest done. Instead, he can Glacial Shard and then use South Sea Deckhand and Sontos board to clear off this Corpse Taker.
A lot of options for Noblord here for sure, and I do think that the secret in play has to give him at least somewhat pause.
I mean, Glacial Shard definitely comes down. It kind of depends on how he wants to utilize the rest of his mana. Chooses Lab Recruiter onto the Glacial Shard. Don't blame him whatsoever. Don't want to end up in a game where you're up against Even Paladin and you have 6 Novice Engineers to close out the game. That would be a disaster.
Relevant reference.
I would never be caught dead having a hand like that.
We see Tansoku though. He does sort of decide. All right, Unraveler is how I'm going to stop Noblord from really being able to leverage his shadow steps, his vanishes, preparations, the quest itself.
Vicious Scale Height is, in my opinion, a lot more valuable than, say, a Soto Spore, personally, just because I think that even Paladin has a lot of scary bursts in the late stage of the game.
Yeah, this decision, I mean, granted, you can play more of the one-cost things at later points if you care primarily about mana efficiency, but look, he's even, like, kind of stretching to slow himself down.
Yeah.
You know, I do really appreciate how expressive Noblord is when he plays.
I
You know,
love
how
it.
you see him counting things out with his hands, and a lot of players are totally stone-faced, whereas he is very expressive and wears his emotions on his face, and it makes for a lot of fun viewing.
It's very dramatic,
It
that's
is.
for sure.
It
I mean,
is.
it feels like he's his own, he's like conducting his own mental concert, trying to like figure out what's all the right plays
So here,
here.
Noblord, he's testing for auto defense matrix.
Okay.
Discovers, okay, it's not that. And this is a big win for Tansoku here, that he effectively was able to eat the Vicious Scalehide just with the secret. And then, again, has to commit another minion to remove the actual final body of the Corpse Taker.
Yeah, just look at one secret taking up 3 cards for Noblord. That is a huge value win. And now, Tansoku has the opportunity to add to the board state. Gen Greymane isn't super amazing by himself, but it's still a 6-attack minion.
The big issue here is, again, just going to be that Sonya. Is Noblord going to be able to take down the... Yep, and we see him just snap it off. He still has the South Sea Deckhand.
Oh, and he draws another Glacial Shard, too. That's really nice.
But this is he only gets, I believe, 4 plays of it, which is enough to kill the Unraveler, but it does not give him quest completion.
Not yet.
That is true.
But
it does put him in a position where he has a protected Sonya. We've already seen a consecration. There's no way for Tansoku to get to this Sonya.
You're right, and it needs to die. There's no way you can let Sonya survive.
He can kill, you know, he can kill it. He can use his True Silver, but he gives him another Wax Elemental.
Right.
And the deckhand that is in hand does represent number 5.
It's brutal. Brutal that you have to chew through this.
And you're giving your opponent a 4/4 taunt for 1. Divine Shield.
I wonder.
That is definitely not the trade you're looking for, but you can't blame Tansoku. You have to take down Sonya. It gives him enough mana to play a couple of smaller minions, but the pain train is about to begin.
It's time for a little blood.
And there's a preparation even in Noblord's hand.
Oh yeah,
number 5.
I've seen this song and dance. And he picks up Valeera the Hollow.
Next turn's on lock 2.
Noblord's masterpiece Concerto is about to come to its epic climax here. It's just gonna run over the board, and Tansoku does have the Lich King, which is a really powerful minion, but pretty soon Tansoku's gonna get outvalued himself.
All right, Crystal Court. There's the trade. There's the freeze.
Right. It's positions like this where we were alluding to like the vicious scale and how powerful it is to climb back
right.
in terms of the life total. But, you know, given the resource expenditure and how Noblord seems to be okay on the value end, now that he's picked up Valeera, it all works out all right.
Mm-hmm. And he does have the dagger still to take out the 1/1. So clear that off. So if he does play the Wax Elemental here, there's no kill on it with the True Silver.
That's right.
Does decide that he's going to go with the Youthful Brewmaster on the Charger, however.
He's saving the Wax Elemental now. Oh, he wants double Wax Elemental with Valeera.
Yeah.
Then.
So now Lich King comes down, and we did see Lich King do a lot of work previously.
That's right.
If Noblord does decide that he's just going to go ahead and Valeera here, you know, if Tansoku can do his best Bunny Hopper impression and piece together some really powerful Lich King cards. Fan of Knives is the draw, and yeah, Noblord decides I've got to deal with this Lich King.
I think
no way I'm just going to Valeera this turn. Second fan.
Yeah, it's kind of like he had Valeera up.
Yeah. And finds Shadow Step.
Not the most useful in this position, but still a card.
Yep. Decides he's gonna hide himself behind the Wax Elemental now.
Well, you know, I was talking about Tansoku not having enough value, but he's got some of his heaviest hitting cards in his entire deck.
He does. And this Hydrologist is interesting. My just gut impression is that I want to play Spike Ridge Steed True Silver to chew through this,
Right.
ensure that my opponent can't get kill my guy with their board, or like bounce it after. Okay, never mind. He has a Death and Decay as well. Yeah, just gonna pull the trigger there. That's better. That's definitely much better.
That's a lot more damage.
I like somehow missed the Death and Decay. This is a lot of damage. Let's put Noblord down to 9. This game is by no means over.
Right. And
either way.
Noblord does have a couple of whiffs.
Yeah.
Remaining. Pick up preparation.
He did end up. There's a.
That is not a whiff.
Ziliax.
Are you serious?
Oh God.
He has double Ziliax one turn and Shadow Step 1 to double Ziliax the following turn.
And this is an auto defense matrix, so he can use the dagger to test, and then kill currently both these minions. But the Spike Ridge Steeds.
Yes, that is really
are
big.
powerful. Tansoku has to be afraid of a possible vanish if he commits too much here.
I'd be definitely scared. Now full board. Or sorry, full mana usage here.
And this Spike Ridge Steed does make attacking and testing for auto defense matrix quite painful.
That's true. What if he placed it on the Gen instead? Would have taken 8.
It does mean that your opponent can kill your Gen with. Actually, no. Can't.
Yeah.
There is the question of, do you stack your Ziliaxes or do you want 2 separate Ziliaxes? Stacking them makes you vulnerable to a Spellbreaker.
Yeah.
So I think you just want 2 separate 4/4s. It also potentially lets you Shadow Step if you really want to.
If you want
but
to
it's
Shadow
not
Step.
clear that you do, given just how low you are and the threat of this board in general.
Time slips by.
I think I like 2 separate Ziliacs because you can Shadow Step 1, leave 1 up, you gain 8 life, you go back to 18, you still have the opportunity to Ziliacs and Novice Engineer the following turn. You can double Ziliacs again next turn.
What happens if you Shadow Step 1? You gain 8. You go to, like you said, you go to 18.
Yeah.
And then your opponent has 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16. So you die to Spellbreaker Kings.
Spellbreaker plus damage.
If you, Spellbreaker plus damage. If you, he's going to stack them. Stacking them.
Wow.
Okay.
That is some,
So
is some
this
big
is-
plays here from Noblord.
Spellbreaker's lethal.
Not quite. But Spiker Steed lets him push through.
Well, it does.
Actually, I wonder how the Pyromancer.
But if
interaction
he Spike Ridge Steeds the Gen,
it takes
which feel-
damage.
yeah, it's going to take damage and then die to Spike Ridge Steed. So I think this Noblord may have been saying, okay, well, if you have Spellbreaker, you can kill me with Spellbreaker plus a burst. It makes a lot of sense for you to have Steed based on how a lot of these turns have gone.
You could Blessing the Pyro.
Yep.
And push through that way.
Yes. Also an option.
It's annoying though. It gives him another 8 life, but at least you get the Steed and push again.
Yep. All right. Well, there goes the hits. 10 damage.
Yep. With 14 showing.
And not quite lethal next turn for Tansoku, but he has draws. Noblord, though, lots of draws.
Big draw here.
Oh, Glacial Shard.
And the Vanish.
Oh, Vanish is incredibly powerful here.
Yeah, Vanish is really good. Now you get to Novice Engineer and Vanish again. To play the Novice Engineer.
I don't know that he'd want to. I mean, he could Glacial Shard, then Vanish, which gives you additional Glacial Shards in hand.
That's fair.
If you're going to Vanish this turn and want to play things first, I think that's likely to be the option that you want. But it's also possible that you don't want to be doing a value generation thing and you want to be doing a board presence thing, and you just want to Vanish and play 2 Glacial Shards in the first place. You know your opponent will have the Gen and a 2/6 as well as an unknown card. Tansoku's deck does not contain any copies of Equality.
I kind of like the idea of a little bit more value resources, because the moment you're able to pick up the Vicious Scale at number 2, I think the game is determined at that point. But this does put up more pressure. Tansoku, of course, he's just mad to see any kind of Vanish, let alone some kind of value generation play. And to be fair, you still get 2 Novice Engineers anyways.
Yes. Yeah, with the second Novice in hand already.
Oh, okay.
All right, Tarim is good.
It's a good one. And you can shut down the weapon, which means the second South Sea deckhand pickup won't be a charge minion anymore. It's just a vanilla 4/4. So Tansoku has the Acidic Swampo as a hero power. And Sunkeeper.
Reporting for duty. Ungoro belongs to the Titan.
Another Shadow Step. Another Vanish.
Oh, wow. That's not quite as crazy when you consider the fact that there is that Tarim who can come down and really undo much of it. But
Time slips by.
Noblord again, that same position where you can Vanish and then just set up the Glacial Shards and then just keep stacking a little bit more value. I'm trying to look at what cards you draw. Keep in mind, by the way, that Lab Recruiter was used too. So
Right.
Noblord already has a lot of the fatigue count stacked against him if he's drained of resources. That being said, he still has some good stuff in his deck. Brewmaster. You can Shadow Step this and freeze.
Nice to meet you. Drink with me, friend.
all right. 3 builds aboard a 4 for us here. Only 1 3/3 able to attack. Corpse Taker's a draw for Tansoku here. No trades available with the 3/3. Since Noblord reset all of his Tarimmed minions with bounce effects. Noblord shaking his head. He's not sure he navigated that exactly how he wanted.
Yeah, Corpse Taker here in this position, just a little bit awkwardly statted, just like everything else. You know, Paladin likes to get to 3 attack, but Noblord has those 4/4s.
If Noblord wins this game, will that have been every win against even Paladin? And if I recall
see.
correctly, I believe Tansoku may have lost all of his games yesterday with even Paladin as well.
You are correct. If he does win this game with Quest Rogue, it would be a sweep on even Paladin. As for yesterday, I'll have to go back and check the VODs.
I'm told I'm correct.
Look at that, Kibler. They say old age affects memory. Well, they were wrong. Oh, South Sea Deckhand.
Yeah, does not have charge.
yeah.
There's no dagger left, since Tansoku did use that acidic swamp ooze.
This seems like Noblord just has to play complete cleanup here, but there's still
Well, he can.
there's still the the ability for him to deal with the board just through a Shadow Step and freeze, or in this case, Knobs Engineer. Oh, he wants to vanish. Yeah, that makes sense. He doesn't want to vanish Knobs Engineer because then his hand gets too full with just the draw cards.
But he just Shadow Stepped them.
I hope you like my invention.
He is vanishing the knob. Yeah, he's getting
I hope you like my invention.
a lot of them. A lot of draw
Yeah,
cards.
but they cause 0.
It's true.
Yeah.
But he can just replay so many things here is really the primary point.
Right. I mean,
He's vanishing them primarily. His goal here by Shadow Stepping those is to get 0-cost minions in his hand,
Yeah.
so he can have the biggest tempo swing here as possible.
you could even justify prepping the mimic pod in this position. There's not many spells left in the deck.
I don't believe there are any.
You should be correct, actually, because there's only 1 Mimic Pod in the deck.
Victory.
And Tansoku concedes. Noblord comes back from a shaky start to take the match 3-1 and send the Japanese player home.
Yep, back-to-back championships for our Japanese warrior. But Tansoku is going to have to live to fight for another time, or try again next time, rather, because Noblord is the one who survives to fight for another day.
Yeah, and we saw the demeanor that Noblord had throughout that match really shifted as his fortune shifted, and as I think his evaluation of his own play shifted, and he seemed quite comfortable in his element as he got to the end of that final game.
All right, let's go ahead and hop on over to Noblord for a couple words on this victory.
Thanks very much, guys. I'm joined by Noblord now, 1-1 in his group. Still got a little bit of ways to go to make it out, but I'm going to go right into gameplay questions. The first game, that was a nail biter. I want to ask how many times you've practiced Topsy-Turvy Priest in having to draw through your deck and get through taunts in the same turn, because it looks like you did it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I practice like a good 2 to 3 days because there are some shield combos that I have to know, especially against Viper because he has evasion, so I have to get through the deck really quickly. So I practice the shield combos. I think I missed lethal that game. I think I could have gotten it a turn earlier, but I played it safe because I had a Psychic Scream in hand, so that was okay.
And what made you decide to bring the Topsy Priest to this event? Because it's not a choice many of the players made. The combo style that a lot of players went with was the Xerx's Cloning Gallery Priest. So why did you settle on Topsy Priest?
So I thought Viper was going to go more mid-rangey, like cubes with Nerubians and that sort of stuff. So I wanted to have decks that were resistant, and Topsy Priest is way more resistant to Nerubians and Mojo Master than Clone Priest is. So that's why I picked it.
Well, good reasoning. And I was looking through your Twitter yesterday. One, you analyzed your games from yesterday, turn for turn, which I think is pretty cool. I love when players do that. But also, you outlined your path, this may have been this morning, your path to the World Championship. And it's a rough one with a lot of aggressive lineups, having to go against Viper again. Where's your confidence level at right now after getting through one of those 3 steps?
Well, I may have used up a lot of luck in this series. I didn't play that well. I'm not used to those really high rolly row games, and I threw the second game. I probably threw the last game as well multiple times, but I got there. So hopefully I can make sure I play well in the next series. But if I can get through Viper, I think Jing is easier because he has a rogue, which is easier to hit.
Well, I look forward to the analysis once again from your Twitter later on today. But congratulations and good luck in your matches throughout the rest of the weekend. For now, let's go ahead and send it back over to Dan and Kibler.